Hello and welcome to the Election Corner on One Man Think Tank. Today we will be discussing an updated June prediction for the 2020 presidential election. This is due to a, wildly changing political climate, and it's not that wildly changing. I seem to have missed a few states. My apologies, I had my head in the place for a Senate map. So, sorry about that, but here is the map as it stands. Now, if you have been paying attention, you know Donald Trump's approval rating has been plummeting faster than a rock. Stupid Newton and his theories of gravity. Frankly, a rock falls as fast as a feather at a certain point. But, anywho, it's been plummeting. Now, right now, I've set the map up so we can see the 2020 presidential election with one big change, and that is Arizona. Arizona has gone so pro-Biden. Like, I cannot describe what has happened in Arizona. It has gone red. I mean, not red. It has gone... No, I mean that. It went red, and now it has gone blue. Just blue across the board. I don't know what happened. I will probably take a deeper look into it, but genuinely, I cannot explain the rapid change in Arizona where it went red-blue. It had 1 year as a purple state. One. And now it looks like it could very well become the next solid blue state in the Southwest. Speaking of blue states, Nevada, I am very sorry about this. But here is our map. I've thrown Arizona on top for the Democrats plus every seat Hillary Clinton won in 2016. If you haven't heard my spiel about this, I'm pretty sure I said it in my earlier June video. So, yeah, go watch that. And Donald Trump comes in at 108 electoral votes, which is not really good when you're a Republican. Especially at the presidential level. You should be hoping at least one of these red states, whether it's Texas, Alaska, Kentucky, or Ohio, are solid red enough I can put them as solid red. But I can't, so let's dive right in. And we'll go state by state and why they're contested and what the results are. Starting with Alaska. Alaska is a very elastic state that is simultaneously very inelastic. The people of Alaska will vote for whichever party they think will leave them alone. For the longest time, that has been the Republican Party, the party of, we're not going to mess with anything. No new federal programs, no new taxes, nothing like that, and the people of Alaska like it that way. However, the people of Alaska also like gay marriage, and supporting the LGBTQ community, and have, historically, been very progressive on certain reforms, and the fact that they've got a Republican governor who they are actively trying to recall right now, alongside a low approval rating for Donald Trump, puts Alaska in play. We have no polling from Alaska for the presidential election, and I'm imagining we will never have polling from Alaska because no one cares to poll Alaska, because it's unlikely it will ever be the state to decide it. Usually it's just assumed Alaska is red, Hawaii is blue, despite Alaska being, like I said, a very elastic sort of inelastic. Continuing on states which should be solidly red, Kansas. We're getting more polling out of Kansas for the Senate race. And what we're seeing is Barbara Boiler, the presumptive Democratic nominee, going up a whether against her opponent of Marshall or Kobach, is polling very well. She's polling within 1 point of them. Now everyone's in their low 40s. And we've gotten some polling out of the state that implies Joe Biden is overperforming and Donald Trump is underperforming. This is very good news if you are Joe Biden. And right now, it doesn't put Kansas in any serious point of contention. But contention, that's the word. But it does mean it's not safe for the Republicans anymore. It's like Nebraska's 2nd District, which is likely as well. 9 times out of 10, Donald Trump wins this state. But, and this is a big one, it's not safe enough because 1 out of 10 times is still pretty common. For those of you who remember, a good predictions would say that 2016 had Donald Trump at a 30% chance of victory, meaning the presidential election would have fallen under probably leans or likely blue. And he still won. That is the point of likely. Not to say, ooh, this race is so tightly wound, because we've gotten some polling out of Arkansas that have Joe Biden in the lead, which isn't going to happen. And is just one okay poll. But, and here's the big part, these states are contested. 2nd District, Kansas, and also Kentucky. And since we're doing the whole list, Ohio, a bunch of states which Republicans are not safe in, because 1 in 10 times the Democrat wins because Donald Trump has not shored up his safe spots, his should-be safe states. Frankly, think Hillary Clinton in Wyoming and the rest of, not Wyoming, Wisconsin, and the rest of the Rust Belt states. She assumed she would win them and did not invest in them, even though they were arguably likely states in 2016 for the Democrat, even Wisconsin. And because she didn't pay attention, that 1 in 10 occurrence happened in 3 states. Donald Trump is setting that up so we could see Kentucky or Kansas or Ohio go blue. It's not likely to happen by any stretch of the imagination, but it could, and in a spectacular failure, could cost him the election. With that being said, let's do Iowa, a state which went from being me saying it was as close, likely, but the same likely as Kentucky, to it's leans now. It's true. Looking at the entire situation, we're watching Iowa suddenly go from a very red, turning redder state to, oops, it's actually quite contestable. It's Donald Trump has an incumbency bias, and the inherent entrenchment of conservatives in the state also benefits him. But we're now seeing areas like, namely the Des Moines area, but also the Iowa City, Cedar Rapids areas, and the Dubuque and Quad Cities areas coming out in force for the Democrats. And Iowa might be having its suburban switch, where enough suburbanites are going, well, I can't vote for Donald Trump, so I'm going to go vote for the Democrat, because Donald Trump is just so icky, might be enough. And speaking of Iowa, we're going to do one more Republican state, then we'll do some Democratic ones. Texas. Texas right now is leans Democrat. Leans Republican, sorry. But this, as you can tell, is a lot better for the Democrats than you would have originally expected. Joe Biden is polling really well for this early on in the race, and it is still early. It is only June. We're not talking into the race until July, August area. But also, and this is a really big deal, Donald Trump is doing poorly. Now, you are going to see a bunch of headlines talking about a phenomena called the embarrassed Trump supporter, or some variation of that. In Britain, they call it shy Tories, and that's a more consistently used name than the US. But it's this phenomena that people keep claiming it exists, and it says, well, these people are just so embarrassed to vote for this candidate in an anonymous survey, they won't say they'd vote for them. Now, there is enough psychological evidence to say there's a chance that this phenomena definitely happens. However, it is not enough to swing an election. Those of you who paid attention to politics back in 2016 may vaguely remember some articles that were pro-Hillary that came out and said, the reason Hillary's doing bad in the polls is because because people just don't want to admit they're voting for Hillary Clinton. You got all these rough blue-collar types in Wisconsin and Michigan, and they just don't want to say they're going to vote for Hillary Clinton, because that would be embarrassing.
Then they didn't vote for Hillary Clinton.
Same thing, then the narrative became, oh, people were just shy about saying they supported Donald Trump. People didn't want to admit they voted for the bigot, racist, homophobe, all-around unintelligent jackass. But there's no proof this phenomena actually occurred. Polls were pretty much on the money for most of these states, especially if you just evenly divide the unaffiliated or unsure voters, or if you just remove them entirely. The polling was pretty much right across the board, it's just it didn't align right for the Electoral College. And we're going to be seeing a lot more of this. Well, people just, they don't want to say they're voting for Donald Trump. Think about how embarrassing that would be. Out of the Republican camp, but also that sort of middle ground, centrist, liberal camp, when they really try and bring up horse race politics. Okay, now for all the good news for the Democrats. Wisconsin is now leans Democratic. Tempting to put is likely, but for right now it's leans. Democrats have really made some gains in the state, and Donald Trump's approval rating is in the toilet, and Joe Biden is polling really well. 3 amazing combinations that basically explain why this map had to be updated. Over to Michigan, which is likely. Not as likely as Arizona, and there's one reason for that. Voter suppression is going to be much more rampant in Michigan than it will be in Arizona, but I'm thinking on my next map it's probably going to end up being a presumptive likely, but we'll have to see. And lastly, another likely for the Democrats, Pennsylvania. Joe Biden is polling amazingly well in Pennsylvania, and once we've got another month of polling under our belt, I will feel much better about whether or not I'm moving this up to a as good as safe likely, as opposed to a likely, but Donald Trump still can win. Like I said, 30%. We're on the middle ground of likely, not Kentucky likely. Continuing down, North Carolina is tilt Democratic. This is a drop from what was leans. The reason it's gone to tilt is one, frankly obvious reason. Joe Biden's polling a lot more poorly than I thought he would. I thought, because we're witnessing Cal Cunningham in the Senate race on a steady incline as people go, well, we don't want to touch Republicans anymore. That has not occurred at the presidential level, where both have held the line pretty well. Joe Biden wins a few, Trump wins a few. Joe Biden's won enough. I'm putting it as tilt Democrat as opposed to tilt Republican. But North Carolina is going to be one to watch if you want to see which states are going to go blue. As you can see, just from Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Arizona, Democrats have this wrapped up. But pay attention. This could... North Carolina's presidential race could be a key factor on how we view it for the next election. Which, as you know, in a democracy, elections never end. Anyway, up to Maine. Maine's 2nd district is also a tilt Democratic. Joe Biden's got that good rural New England feel. And that sometimes is all you need to win in Maine, not to mention Susan Collins, like I said, screw Newton for his physics and dropping things, but I really hope I'm not screwing this up, otherwise I sound like an idiot. But Susan Collins is dropping like a stone, and she was really what was keeping Trump up in Maine. She's gone, Trump falls out, the bottom falls out under Trump. However, one place it's not doing that is Georgia, which leans Republican. Yes, Georgia is not as contested as people think. We saw massive turnout in the primary. Genuinely massive. However, there was also a lot of voter suppression, and if you want my honest opinion, voter suppression is something we actually need to consider in these metrics. A lot more than we do. Because people go, well, there was high Democratic turnout. Yeah, there was also a lot of high lines in African American areas and Democratic neighborhoods, and not in Republican. And for right now, Trump incumbency bias, white suburbanites in Atlanta not showing they're going to vote as a monolith against Trump, and voter suppression does not make Georgia safe. Safe for the Democrats in any stretch of the imagination in a year where it looks like they're going to flip some states they haven't before, permanently blue, and Georgia's on that list cusp of red to blue. But one good piece of news for the Democrats is Florida is tilt Democratic. This is down from this is down from leans to tilt. Florida's gonna keep fluctuating. No question about it. Joe Biden is now polling much better than I thought he would. It's like Iowa. Joe Biden polls better in Iowa, it goes up. He polls worse in North Carolina, it goes down. Because this election is about the challenger. It always is. The incumbent president can build themselves up some ground, but it really comes down to do people think the challenger will do a better job than the incumbent? Trump has made that question very easy for a lot of Americans, including Floridians, who, Democrats especially, are really pissed off about the coronavirus response. And there are plenty, I hate to say it, a lot of elderly people dying in Florida too, who are in the traditional Trump voting districts, like the Villages. So, this is our map. Joe Biden's looking like he's got a victory here. This is a likely Democratic win map, and it's really a question of does he win North Carolina, Florida, Iowa, and Texas, and Georgia. Like I said, the big questions here is, when does the South flip? And once the South flips, it's over for Republicans. It's over. I have posted a video on this. I will probably post a more thorough video on the future of America, but if you want to get a general gist of my thoughts on the matter, look at my video of what happens if we had a progressive third party running for the presidency, and what happened, and the future, why the Republicans are doomed. The South is likely to flip, and the Democrats are likely to split. As the Republicans' power wanes, Democrats become too big of a tent, and the Democrats become the liberal Democrats become the centrist party, the social/progressive Democrats become the left-wing party, and Republicans become a very unpopular right-wing party. But with that all being said, if you liked the video, leave a like down below and drop a comment while you're down there. If you want to see more from this channel, click the subscribe button and the notification bell, and if you think my opinion is worth sharing, please post it and share it, a new thing apparently I'm supposed to ask. Otherwise, as always, have a wonderful day.